Yes, this is me, Hudson Judge, man. Doing my thing this evening. My topic is history. We are history, and everything we do is history. Everything. Our past, our present is history. So I want to give a list in a poetic way. Everything we do is history. Our names is history. The food we eat is history. The clothing we wear is history. Our parents, grandparents, great-great-grandparents, way back, our ancestors, that's history. They represent history. And our children and children and relatives, and so is history. Genetics, that's history. The good and bad things we do in life is history. You can't sugarcoat it. The good and bad thing we do in life is history. The past and the present is history. So, history sometimes rebut. Right? If one way stupid happen. You see what's going on in Sudan is history at rebut. The schools we attended is history because that's where you are your past students, friend, your former schoolmate, or your old-time schoolmate is history. Right? So if something happened to your old-time schoolmate, you feel it. Just like if it's your brother, your sister, or your cousin, or your best friend, or somebody you know, you just feel it. The places we live, or visit, or travel to, that's history too. The bad thing people do to you, and you don't forget them, is history. And the good things they do for you is history. Right? Lovers, no, ex-lovers. Ex-husband, ex-wife, old-time girlfriend, old-time boyfriend. It's history because they say fire stick the sketch. Right? And if you had ever had tabanka in your life, right? A woman give a man tabanka, or the man give the woman tabanka when you get lovesick. That is history, you go remember that. Deceitful people is history. Because you don't forgive them and you cannot forget them. The deceitful people. Right? Betrayal is a sort of kind of deception too. That's history. And if you loved entertainment, oldie goldies music, what we call vintage music, is history. For example, why we play certain calypso songs, calypso especially, as Caribbean people, when we want to get at other people, or to make them remember something. People in politics do it a lot, political activists. We use calypso. That's history. Now the reason why I'm saying that, the day you're born is history. When you pass by a cemetery and you look in a graveyard, what you think? You think of those who died. That's history. On a nice day, on a weekend, you see a set of cars going on the road, pop, 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 pop. You see a bride and a bridegroom and people following wedding. That's history. When you look at all them churches and so in the Caribbean, there's history. Yeah, history. You look at the old slave wall and them all over Grenada and them old sugar mill and throughout the Caribbean, that's history. So, when people saying history is important, history is important because whenever we open our mouth to speak, is history we talking now? For example, how you know 1 and 1 is 2? You don't just know it so. They taught you that in school, so that is history. History is not only to talk about Christopher Columbus and slavery and the French and the English and the Dutch and so. History is mathematics, counting numbers. You know why I tell you it's history? When I was a little boy, I used to hear them people saying, 2 pence helped me. Right? A shilling. Penny helped me. The whole time people used to say 5 cents, 2 pence helped me. A shilling. And then when we ask our parents, why they saying that this is a 5 cents, why they saying 2 pence helped me? We parents tell us, before they give us that dollars and cents money when we growing up, before we were born, the British give them pound, shilling and pence, so some old people didn't change. So they said 2 pence help me. They used to call 25 cents what? Which one was one of them was a farthing. I think 50 cents was a shilling. But I mean, that is how the old people used to say that was history. So when you hear people talking about Grenada, people saying history dead. History can't dead. You can't bomb up history. Everything we do is history. Everything we do is history. So if you had a bad political past and you want to come back into politics, and you know you oppress a certain group of people, there are people who are alive who represent history, they go expose you. And sometimes history does repeat itself. And it's not good sometimes for history to repeat itself. For example, I will use an international crisis as an example. Look at what happened in the Sudan. Sudan are the darkest skinned people in the world. The Arabs invade Sudan. Then the British come, they invade too and they defeat the Arab. When the British was leaving, they didn't give the darkest skinned people or the indigenous people in the country. They give the children of the Arabs, and the Arabs. But what colonialism had already changed the religion. The north of Sudan is more Muslim because of the Arab invasion. Now, countries, how does there people in Grenada saying democracy don't work? But if you look at Sudan, democracy do work because two general fighting, they don't know what is democracy. So how are we going to do it? Eh? Do these two generals know to end the war? Because they never practice multi-party democracy. So history is important. And in our Grenada, there is little pockets of people who saying they don't believe in the democratic process and so, and they want the other system. But what is the other system? The other system is what? When a man can vote and you are poor, what do you expect the other man to do? Or other group of people can exercise the wants and need. What do you expect they're going to do? So how are you going to do? Are we going to fight fire with fire and let history repeats itself? History is important. So when we're talking about Grenada politics, and you hear some people saying history not important, but when they talk, they themselves, they talk in history. And nowadays, with all the AI, artificial intelligence, sometimes what you say yesterday, people could record it and play it back on you today and tomorrow. So history is history. We live in a time when technology is a never-ending highway. And technology is part of our life. Yes, it's part of our life. You understand? Even churches get caught up in history. The most fundamental, most conservative churches get caught up in history. I won't be surprised if churches are taking tithe and offering to people bank account. In the church, you have to put your bank account to pay tithes and offering. I don't know if that, I don't go to church, but I believe one day that's going to happen. Because when you go to church nowadays, and it's collection time, if the church leaders hear you dropping 25 cents and 5 cents and 10 cents and thing in thing, they're like that, you know. They're like a quiet envelope. Because what it is, history makes paper money. So when the envelope quiet is, they know it's paper money. You put paper money is what? $5, $10, $20, $30, $40, $1,000. They're like paper money. $220, any amount that could make up is paper money. $50. You understand what I mean? So when we're talking how you get rid of history, we can't get rid of history. History is not only Columbus. You understand? We just talk history in Grenada. And some people say don't talk history. But if you don't talk history, how are you going to live? The way we speak is history. Furthermore, the way we walk in the Caribbean men is history. Because Caribbean men have a liming culture. They liming on the black. And fellas on the black have their own style of walk. I could tell certain people from the Caribbean when they walk. You understand? When you wear a suit and a tie, what you wearing? That's history. When you see a archbishop or a priest or the pope or the nun in the gong, it's history. They're imitating or representing the way people used to dress long time ago. So how we going to get rid of history? But in order to make more history, we have to have a creative mind. If we keep fighting over the same thing over and over, like I see in Grenada politics, the party in power now is on the defense. The party what lost power is on the offense. And the same complaint, because the table turned. But the only way we could modify or evolve or enhance is to come up with creative ideas. How are we going to get more? And then we wouldn't be everybody fighting for the same thing. In Canada, we say squeaky wheel make the most noise. So when the squeaky wheel making noise, you want grease. So right now, the NNP activists you might hear them making noise because they wheel need grease. The NDC on June 23rd, 2022, they get grease in the axle, so they are making noise again. You understand? This is history. Why you celebrate your birthday? Huh? Tell me why you celebrate your birthday. It's history. When you pension and government give you pension money, it's history. Because you work, they have a record. Or all you in Grenada, nice. And you work with the government, you get a government pension and gratuity. Well, that is history. That is history. You understand? So, mind you, we could distort history. But when you distort history, there are other people who what could refute what you say. Because you can't kill the truth. You understand? You know something again too? I just listen to all them political people in Grenada. Those who take the intellectual route, some again they are intellectual, but they're more inclined in using the language of the Grenadian people. And when you listen to them, the easiest ones to understand is those who use the language of the people. And the reason why they're easier for the masses to understand is because they represent the history of the people. You know? Understand? So, history, you can't stop history. You can't stop history. So, before I go hit now I see we are carnival coming again. A group of artists in New York to launch carnival. Is it today? Oh, maybe today they're doing it. Some of we top artists. But that is history. You know it's history? There's a lot of Grenadians in New York and other Caribbean people, so there's a market. They go launch carnival in New York. Unfortunately, in Canada, our history in terms of organizing activities like New York people, unfortunately, we haven't have those resources. We have the resources, but we don't have the organization. So we don't have those things. What we have is people running organization not in the interest of culture or anything. It's interest of what do we see? I'm educated, so I'm going to run an organization. You understand? Or I have other interests. Maybe I'm running a Grenada organization in Canada, but maybe I'm holding a place for a politician in the future. You understand? I don't know for New York, but all them things, you know. So we behind, but in New York, the culture of history is there. So we can't get rid of history. History is history is history. Anyway, this is me, Hudson, Georgia. I go on till I come again.